it's time to welcome the person that will guide you through the supernatural realm. Your host, Tim Roxbury.
And welcome back to the Supernatural Realm on a great Tuesday right here on the Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Well, we got a great guest tonight, and my co-host Chip Regenthal will tell the listeners who she is. Go ahead, Chip.
Oh, thank you, Timmy. A pleasure to be here. Pleasure to have you all with us today. What a show we have for you. Our guest is the fabulous Morrighan Lynne, renowned spiritual medium, psychic empath, clairvoyant, intuitive coach, ordained minister, paranormal investigator, and published author. We'll talk about her great book, The Spirited Human, Proactive Tools for a Reactive World. She's really out to help us. With a fiery gypsy soul and an eclectic approach to spirituality, she supports the ever-evolving human with compassion, straightforwardness, and loving accountability. Morrighan's specialties are in shadow work and supporting the empaths of the world, like me, in discovering their superpowers. A professional speaker, she's held hundreds of workshops, classes, galleries, speaking engagements, all with the intention of supporting the human in remembering their truest alignment. And that's very important for us all, really. Her new book, again, The Spirited Human, Proactive Tools for a Reactive World, is filled with personal stories, comedic ahas, had a couple of those myself, just yesterday as a matter of fact, practical spiritual teachings. The Spirited Human is the handbook for us all, and you really should check it out. It's part instruction manual for being human, part roadmap for navigating the soul. Morrighan Lynne, our honored guest today, takes us on a journey back to our true selves. And for more information, you can find her at www.morrighanlynne.com. I'll spell it for you. MorrighanLynne.com. Of course, we'll be talking about that a lot.
Awesome.
Mostly Timmy, though.
Hey, Chip, what were those aha moments you were talking about?
What were the what?
You said you had those aha moments.
Oh, a couple of comedic ahas. Yeah, that was yesterday. Just some people we were talking with. But actually, it was we were on the show yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, shameless self-promotion here. I have a show here on Late Night in the Midlands, the L&M Radio Network at lnmradionetwork.com on Mondays from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, called Kindness Beyond the Veil, where we examine metaphysics, paranormal, supernatural, extraterrestrial, all those nice realms, but without all the fear and loathing. We look at the kinder side of metaphysics. I had a guest on. She does paranormal tours, and we told some jokes that potentially could get me in trouble. So I said, aha, about that, and I still have my job. So,
well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So Morrighan,
I came close to the line yesterday. It's kind of rare for me.
Yeah, good. So Morrighan, let's hear about you. How did you get started with your abilities? How did you first realize that you were an empath?
Honestly, it started when I was about 7 years old. I was one of those kids that you hear the stories about where you kind of feel like something is different about you, or, you know, you're just weird, something's wrong, and you don't really know how to handle it, and so you end up shutting it down just so that you can survive and kind of blend into the world. And then it was around 27, 28 years old where it started to come back on and make itself known again. I actually feel that is the way it does. It's who we are, so it's not going to go away. You may be able to turn it off for a little while, but eventually it'll just kind of naturally come back online. And that's where it happened for me.
Did your peers treat you like you were different, like in grade school?
No, it wasn't. I don't think I let it eke out enough to have them. I just wanted to be accepted. I think, you know, in grade school and early, like junior high, I think that's the goal, is to be accepted. You want to be accepted by your peers. And I think I was just afraid for them to find out at all. So I just hid it away.
Right. I think the with me, the grade school kids knew I was different. and they always treated me as different, and I never knew why until I started, involving myself with the paranormal and I found out what it was to be an empath and there's different signs. And it was very, very upsetting when you were growing up. They were treating you different. They were putting you aside like you were odd, you were strange, and I never understood why. It kind of upset me a little bit. So, yeah, it was kind of rough.
Rough.
Yeah, kind of rough for me.
Yeah, I hear a lot of stories like that with people where, kids are mean, and you kind of grow up accepting that, and obviously kids are meaner these days, but we're wired to want to have this tribal community kind of gathering within ourselves, and everyone is just really afraid that they're not going to be picked, and so we're all running around just trying to fit in, and it's up to the group of whether or not you fit in. So it's this kind of mob mentality of whether or not you are one of them, and yet we're all trying to be one of them. And I feel like as adults, we grow out of that energy, we grow out of that goal, and try to remember our uniqueness, what makes us special on this planet. And so maybe that's just the human design, maybe that's just the pathway to getting to know ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Chip, you got your first question for?
Oh yeah, first of about 1,000.
Bring it.
Now, okay, now you're, if I'm not mistaken, from Texas. Yes, you're a Texas girl.
I am.
Yeah. See, my mama was born and bred there, Houston area.
Nice.
Yeah, everything's
cool.
bigger in Texas, so
That's what they say.
And that includes being an outcast and fitting in and finding your way. And I kind of came into mine at 21. That's when my path started, really, and some weird things in youth. But look, I guess my question is kind of broad, because we talk to a lot of people, especially listeners here on this network. Our listeners, we're very proud to have the listeners we do. They're open-minded. They're interested and fascinated in all the realms that you really cover in your work, which we do thank you for. I guess my question is kind of along the same lines that Timmy asked, because Timmy and I have this wonderful symbiosis. But, look, hey, for me, I fit in, and if I start getting outcast, I would make friends with, like, the toughest kid in school, So I had, so nobody messed with me that way, by proxy, really. But, I think each and all of us, here on this show and listening have been there at some point in our lives where we felt out of the loop, And especially for somebody like me who was in the loop for a long time, came into kind of a health issue where all of a sudden doctors and lawyers were looking at me funny, and then people started looking at me funny, and it was just that kind of thing where I had been in the loop a long time. And that's with a chronic illness. People have chronic illnesses; they feel out of the loop, and the weaknesses come. I have people in my kind of extended family that have had past of abuse, which I haven't had. So I can't identify for them. I know what it's like to be kind of, I will say, psychic. I had my years in that, but you just. It's something that when it happens, you think it happens to everybody, especially you at 7, right? You're having these experiences and you think, well, it's got to be normal. Everybody has it. And then you find out the hard way. But now we're in a system, I guess my question is, because you have a very special way of helping us out of this. And I thank you for that personally. We both do, because that's a very special thing. But the sense of healing, I think, even on a cellular level, people store in their stresses and their fears and their angers and their self-doubts and their self-judgments and all this stuff. And it stores even in the cells, and the cells are saying, I don't know what to do with this. What do you want? Hey, George, you want to handle it? I don't want to handle it, and it eventually, if we don't release it, finds its way into the weakest parts of our body and goes from a state of ease to a state of dis-ease or disease. And I like that you pretty much call yourself a warrior. That would be accurate to say, yeah. But I guess the question is, for those of us who are holding these things in and say, well, geez, I don't have time to meditate during any given day, or relax, or find my zone of peace, or ways to release it. And a very broad question. But as a shadow warrior, what is the process behind that? Again, very broad and general, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. It's going to be there's no cookie cutter answer for one, because everybody has their own past, they have their own baggage, they have their own wounds, and they have their own future in the way of their soul came here to follow a trajectory. And so there's no cookie cutter answer for that, but there are systematic things that we all can do that actually can create alignment. It does take a little bit of time and effort. So when I hear people say, I don't have time for it, I really hear, well, I don't really want to do it. I want the easy answer, and I don't want to work for it.
Right.
That's not going to cut it. And we just have to get really real about that. I see so many people struggling, and I hear their complaints, and I hear their patterns and their struggles, and all of the stories. But the person, the human spirit that resides within, has to truly want the change in order to step forward to make the effort for it. And so when I talk about being a shadow warrior, I kind of call people out on their BS, because we all want to be happy. We all want to be loved and accepted. But what are we willing to do to get it? And there's got to be a little bit of some accountability right there. Now, with that said, there are things that we all can do these things, and it takes seconds out of our day. Grounding and centering are two of the most important steps you could ever do in your entire life, that you'll do every day, that take about 2 minutes out of your day to do. And the better you get at it, the less you have to put in some time for it. Now, the downside to that is humans are programmed to believe that if it's easy, it's not valuable. If it has a lot of hard work, the no pain, no gain mentality. So because grounding and centering is so easy, they don't think that it's important, so we're just not going to do it. We're going to skip over that.
Right.
But if you don't have a foundation to stand on, and you don't have something to hold on to when storms of life come into your world, you're going to get topsy-turvied. Like if you don't have leverage against the gigantic ocean wave coming at you, you're going to get sucked under, and you're going to choke on some water. So grounding provides you leverage. It gives you something substantial to hold on to, and it helps you navigate those waves instead of getting tumbled under. And then centering, centering connects you to the all, to spirit, God, goddess, whatever you want to call it. It takes you out of the I'm just a lowly human and everything is out to get me, and it brings you up into a state where I am connected to something, and I know that I have faith that it's going to work out. And it's not about religion or spirituality or anything. It's just a knowing that you are connected. And you have those two elements in your life, you're capable of navigating your day-to-day on a better level than when you don't have them. And so I will forever and ever preach those two steps for as long as I have air in my lungs, because those are the two most important things people can do.
Yeah, they actually work for me, both of those things. So I wholeheartedly agree, and just wanted to say it really isn't a cookie cutter example. So take that, all you gingerbread men out there. That's my comedic aha moment for the day. But a follow-up question, and then back to Timmy. Okay. But it's like, some people aren't ready, and I wanted to focus on that part only for a moment because, look, I do hypnosis for people, mostly past life regression, and that will be a follow-up question at some point. We're going to talk about that. But, for weight gain or smoking cessation or job performance or confidence or things like that. There are some times I'm a smoker, okay? I'm going to use that example, but I'm a proud smoker, because I'm one with nature, you know. It's something that God made, you know. I mean,
Right.
so I am at one with the plants, you know. I have high respect for plants and trees, my brethren in the wood. But that said, you know, I have smokers that want to quit, but they want to quit for material reasons, you know. I want to quit
Right.
so I can fit in with these people. I want to quit so I can, you know, do this. It's not, I really want to quit. So when you come
Right.
across people that aren't ready, you know, to take these steps, is there something special that you do? And now I'll shut up.
Well, it depends on the person, obviously, because let's just say they do want to quit smoking to fit in with a certain crowd. My answer to that is, anytime we want to make change for something outside of ourselves, that change doesn't usually hold on. We usually will backslide and go back, because I agree with you, our motives are muddy. We're not really clear why we want to do it. So anytime, and it doesn't matter what the change is, if you want to change the way you dress, or you want to change jobs, or change your relationship because your friends are giving you grief about it and you just want to make them happy, anytime you sell out that way, you're living in the archetype that is called the prostitute. You are in the prostitute archetype. That energy is always dirty, and you're not going to like who you are, because on some level you know you're selling out. So what I do is I flip it around back on people. Do it or don't, but decide, if you do it, that it is for you, and you have, your motives are clean about it, because that change will anchor in you in a real way, and you'll have a higher probability of sticking with it than if you're doing it for other people. Because that selling out is a slippery slope. We do it all the time. We want to make everybody else happy, and so we try to adapt to make sure that they're all okay. But somewhere inside of us, we know we sold out, and we don't like ourselves, so we'll end up backsliding.
Mm-hmm. That's what I've heard from a recent friend. He thinks that because I am an empath, because it's how I'm wired, that somehow I am letting God down and I'm backsliding. What's your advice on how do you communicate with people like that? Is there any?
Wait, let me see if I heard you correctly, because did you mean that your friend thinks that you are turning your back on God because you're an empath?
Because you said earlier, you know, at the start of the show, it's how we're wired. But if
Right.
you know, being that's how we're wired, how can we be backsliding from Christianity?
Well, in that context, that isn't necessarily what I meant before, but let me answer you directly, because this is where I am on fire. This is not a good. I'm going to try and calm myself down before I answer, because
Go.
I am fire-headed.
Ground and center.
Breathe. Okay, first of all, you are born absolutely perfect. What you are is what you are, and that is the commitment that your soul made with the source that you would want to call God, goddess, spirit, universe, whatever it is for you, because the title doesn't matter. That's your relationship. Your soul committed to be that. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with being psychic, clairvoyant, being a medium, being psychic. None of these connotations. That's not accurate. So I'm going to breathe now, because that pisses me off. But I get the fear that is instilled in people, because that is what religion has done. Religion as a whole has taught that you don't have it within you. You have to go to somebody else to get it. So it has propagated this belief that if you have any kind of gift or connection, or you hear the voice of God, then it is a demonic, or it's evil, or it's someone trying to manipulate you. And it's just not the case. I mean, yeah, there's things that go bump in the night, and yes, they do try to manipulate, but our gifts are a commitment our soul made to source for us to be on the planet to help other people. And that's something I just stamp it, put it in the mail that shit, because that's what that is.
Oh, you go, girl.
I'm cross-eyed right now because I'm so mad and I need to calm down.
It's okay. I didn't mean to upset you,
It's that Irish temper.
I get that too. I got that.
We can calm you down.
Okay. And love, right? He doesn't know, and he's coming from a place that's his belief system, and I understand all that. But please don't shame yourself. Please, and anybody that's listening that's ever been told that what you have is an abomination, please don't allow that shame within you, because it is divine. It is hear that. It is a commitment that your soul made to source, that you would be that on this planet so that you could help yourself and others. It is a gift. That's why they call it a gift.
Mm-hmm. Would it be accurate to say that any type of organized religion or unorganized that think that way is based out of fear because they don't understand or they don't want to? I
honestly, my very personal belief is that organized religion is a business. And before the Christian movement came into town, before Christianity really took hold in Europe, early Europe, we were connected humans. We honored the seasons, we honored the cycles, we honored the flow of nature, and we were connected, and we had connection within us. And then, of course, Christianity came in. Constantine saw an opportunity to blow through town and make, he mimicked all of those sacred sites and the rituals and the beliefs, and it confused the people that used to practice that. And so they were, there's this whole no, this is the new version, this is the 2.0 version, and so some converted, some didn't, and if you weren't converted, you were killed. But it really comes down to, it is a control factor. Because if you can instill fear in humanity, you can control them. And that's everywhere. That's in media, advertising, social media, politics, medical, educational. You just take a moment and look at the world, and we are driven by fear, and primarily because humanity is wired to survive. So they have a good thing going. They know how to push those buttons and make us really afraid for us to think for ourselves.
All right. Chip?
Oh boy, here we go. All right, I got a two-part question based on Timmy's question, because I agree with you. Been talking about that too. Humankind has been around for 3 million years. The Homo sapiens about 315,000 years, but modern Homo sapiens 50,000 years. And you take that number and you think, well, that's 48,000 years before Christ. 40,000 years before any kind of indoor homes. 49,000 some odd years without electricity or plumbing and heating, computers and phones. And we have gotten very distant from nature. And we were talking last night about ghosts and belief in ghosts, and it goes back before recorded language, before we had a written alphabet. There was the belief in afterlife and ghosts. There was the belief that there is a spiritual essence in plants, in rivers, in animals, in everything, and that was around pretty much since prehistoric times. So there is a lot of that, and there's also a difference in, we're trying to solve metaphysical problems here. How does telepathy work? How, what are ghosts? Extraterrestrial, all this sort of thing, and you kind of have to look beyond the three-dimensional realm. And there is the belief in Christ, but there's also Christ consciousness. And that's more of an interdimensional tone that sets what he came to tell us, which is to be forgiving of others and ourselves, to be compassionate, to be benevolent, to turn the other cheek, to be inclusive. And, I think it doesn't matter what faith that you have. If you're in organized religion, it's what you do with that faith,
Right.
And that's what really counts. And so you try to honor the tone that these deities or messiahs or whatever have sat for you. And that's the spirit of the whole thing. It's not about judging others because they don't pray the same way you do. It's reaching out to others, you know, and trying to be your best self. And again, like you say, forgiving of our inadequacies and getting to understand them so we can release them. And that's what you're all about. My question is, my second part question anyway, was because Timmy mentioned he's an empath. I am too. Now, I have a problem that I want to ask you about because I am so empathic. It physically hurts me, you know, to walk into crowded places because I can feel everybody's emotions. I know what everybody's feeling, you know. That's part of my interdimensional inclusiveness. But you do work with empaths. So how can I control this out of control empathy?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? Because that is the crux of it. When an empath, whether they know they are or aren't, it's funny because they call empaths the psychic sponges of the world, because we all just suck up whatever is in our vicinity, and it feels like we don't have a choice, and that's the downside. We have lived with it for so long, and it has pretty much beaten us down that we feel like we don't have a choice. Our only choice is to try and stay away from those situations. And so the empath is left to coping as opposed to thriving. So it's a process. I'll kind of just run down some of the things that I do with empaths. The very first level for what I would say is you've got to know the distinction between your energy and someone else's energy.
Right.
Now that sounds very simple, but if you don't know the distinction, you don't know where they end and you begin. That's how you start absorbing. And so what I do with people is I work on to strengthen their own space, their own bubble, their own aura. You want to look at how healthy your aura is. Are there any holes or tears or rips? Because that's one of the things that I see in empaths. We have very weak auras, primarily because we don't give it a lot of attention and we suck everybody's traumas in there.
Yeah.
So our auric field will be weak.
Oh, you'd
so
like my aura.
Exercising. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's
it's
so
about
many different
exercising
colors,
it.
you know. I've got some divine energy rolling. I mean, truly divine energy, because I connect to the ground. But pain also, you know, which is sensitive to things. But look, I'm going to overshare for a moment to make a point. But, you know, I am better because of my pain, you know. It's taken hatred from my heart. It's allowed me not to compete, you know, to be more gentle, to be more spiritual. And if I could have my life over, I would take the pain, you know. So I try to process the bad stuff and find ways to turn it around. To me, there are what I call the three bad kings: ego, fear, and doubt. And, you know, the more that I can center and ground, as you say, the less those things matter. The less material things matter. The less my appearance matters. I don't care what I look like, you know. I mean, I'm married anyway.
You can let yourself go.
she accepts me, you know. Yeah, she can let herself go if she wants, you know, because we have that kind of bond. But at the same time, you know, I want to give people the one thing I won't have, which is healing. So I work very hard to heal others, and because of that, I see and feel and sense people at a soul level, you know. Yeah. And I think that's why I can't kind of hold it. But yeah, my aura is like this multicolored thing, you know, psychedelic probably. Yeah. But
well, another level of that, if you don't mind, is I want to take it just a step further and say, you've also, as a healer, because empaths do tend to be natural healers, we just go in the field, you know, we feel like we resonate with. Empaths must master how to borrow someone's energy so that we can read it enough to know what's going on with them, but then give it back. Because what we tend to do is we want to heal people so badly that we will take their stuff away so that they are healed faster, but we keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So part of the mastery is being able to recognize that on a soul level, it's their stuff, and they need to transmute it. You can assist that. But when I'm doing readings and healings and stuff, I'm borrowing their information so that I can feel what's going on with them, and I can help direct their mind because they may not be aware of it. And it helps walk them through, hey, did you realize this is going on with you? But I don't keep it because it's none of my business. And that's a boundary. Here, empaths need boundaries. We need to know when too much is too much, when can we heal, but not to the point where it causes us harm. There's just a lot of like self-discipline around those conversations, and it just depends on where each empath could be leaking, like which conversation they may not be paying attention to. That's what's causing the chronic fatigue, the fibromyalgia, you know, the adrenaline or the adrenals and the thyroid issues because of these leaks. And
Leaks?
It's a mastery. Yeah, we leak. Our aura leaks. And when our aura leaks, we don't have any energy for ourselves.
Oh, because yeah, fibromyalgia is a thing for me. One of many, you know. But
that's what happens. Our battery gets so low that the body just can't sustain itself anymore. And that's why I say go to the aura, because sometimes it's like a water balloon that has a little pinhole in it. It doesn't ever hold the water. It'll just keep deflating and deflating and deflating no matter how much you fill it up. We are responsible for our own aura. And so, you know, as a daily regimen, we should be able to go in there and just see how we're doing. And then whatever healing you do for other people, do it for your own auric field, and it'll put that back into place. And then you don't have any leaks.
Okay, because that makes sense to me. Because look, and I'm sorry, Tim, but you know, but because you know what I'm trying to do with, you know, I have guides. I have lots of guides. You know, 9, and they help me create this divine force. So, you know, you see people on Facebook or Twitter or whatever saying, oh, pray for me because of this, or pray for my friends because of that. And of course, I can't do that for everybody, but there are times. Or when hurricanes strike, people, you know, in regions where there's people I love, you know, I can build this great energy to protect them. And it's worked. I don't take credit for it, you know, but I like to think that at least I tried. And same with my show, you know, I'm trying to remove fears from people in these dark realms, so maybe it'll bleed into their everyday life to have less fear, you know, and be on this path to healing. But they do have to do the tough work, and that's where you come in. But because I'm spending so much of this time trying to build a force that is so great that my prayers can work, it's killing me. I have no energy at all. You know, I barely leave the house.
That's the downside to being human. I hear, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna really give you like the information I'm getting, if you're okay with that.
Oh, please, yeah, go for it.
As a spirit, you are immaculate. Your energy is gigantic, and you're strong and powerful. But you have a human body, and so it's not about how can I save the world from my spiritual self because you're killing your human self. The mastery of walking on this planet is in knowing the harmony between those two worlds and being able to do what is your place to do, because it's not your job to save the planet. And that's the thing that empaths need to hear. It is not our job to save everybody, because let me put it to you in the way the angels talk to me. If we think that somebody needs something, and I know that there's a lot of people hurting in the world, if I jump in and take away their hurt, what have I done? I have taken away their experience for them to learn how to heal themselves. I have inputted my own ego into what I think they need. And my guides are pretty hard on me. They go, it's none of your damn business. You are showing up for people that are willing to do their own healing and then facilitating that environment. But it is not our jobs to save the world. It is none of our business. We need to get out of the way. The world is hurting because they need to learn how to do it. And we can be the space for that and nurture them and love them and cheer them on. But if you're trying to save the planet, you're going to end up being a sacrifice instead of a service. And there's a very big difference. You're going to kill yourself just so you can save as many people as you can save. That's not being a service. That's not what you came to this planet to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm not trying to save people per se. I'm trying to help the balance of,
I know.
the universal energy.
But there's appropriateness, though. There's an appropriate level of what is ours to do and what's not ours to do.
So I have to be more selfish toward my human body then.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I be narcissistic?
No.
I wouldn't go that far.
I wouldn't go that. I wouldn't go that.
That's my comedic aha. All right. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. Yeah. Empaths can't be narcissistic, by the way.
Right.
It's not in our DNA.
Yeah.
Well, it's just the whole thing is because I am kind of weak, And look, this is kind of weird, and sorry again, Tim.
Okay.
3 people when I was 11 years old. My older sister was into psychics, so I had 3 readings, and of course you're really not supposed to read anybody under 16, but this was the 70s at the time.
Yeah.
But all 3, I had a tea reading, a tarot reading, and a numerologist, and they all said, nobody says this these days, but they all said that I would live to age 71. All 3 of these. They didn't know each other. They weren't in the same towns or states, but it was just a very unusual coincidence. So that means I'm going to have about 11 years left. So I want to make my mark on the world. It's not an ego thing. It is, but it isn't, if that makes any sense. As long as I try to do something.
Right.
That's
Be
really all I want to do.
Right.
But yeah, it's killing me a little.
Chip, I don't know if it's...
And can I...
Go ahead.
So sorry. And can I just offer one alternative that maybe what those 3 psychics were picking up is that you have an exit at 71 years old, but our exits are choice. You actually don't have to die at 71. This is an interesting thing about death is we pick 2 or 3 exits before we're even born. We pick them. We say, I'm going to want this 16, 37, 71, and then maybe you pick another one that's 105. And when we come close, it's like driving down the highway. When you come close to one of those exits, you kind of, on a spiritual level, assess, do I want to take this access? Do I want to take this exit right now? Yeah. No, I don't think I do. I think I want to keep going. And then you go a little longer. And then when you come up on the second one, maybe I do, maybe I don't. So I just offer that just so you don't feel like you have a countdown and you need to hurry up before you hit that number because that's where I hear a lot of your stress coming from. Like it's a countdown. It's
not stress because, look, because of the pain, I don't want to live to be 90, It hurts as I get older. 71's good for me, But but ask me at 70, I might have a different opinion.
But it might not be your choice, though.
Yeah, we still got a ways to go, but I almost embraced the feeling. And and I'm sorry to hog Timmy, but I've had all these I'm a tarot reader, so I trade readings with psychics. Some of my guests, Most of my best friends are psychics now, and they all say basically the same thing. It's as if I have some sort of major deity behind me saying, I can take your pain, but you're not letting me. So, and that's basically what you said. And now I'll give it back to Tammy. Yeah. Sorry,
maybe it's not your job to take their pain, Chip.
What's that?
Maybe it's not your job to take everybody else's pain. Maybe they're going through that pain for spiritual reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But, I have an opportunity on radio to, kind of make people feel a little easier at a mass level, because I see everybody walking around with their heads down, and not because they have a phone in their hand, but because they're confused. They don't know what truth is anymore, or facts, and they don't know what the correct thing to say this week is. Mm-hmm. And they're not talking eye to eye. You know, they're using they're thinking about what they're saying, typing it out, editing it, and then sending it, rather than taking the risk of face-to-face conversation or embracing nature. And it's slowly killing people. So I'm just trying to, I have an opportunity to bring them to ease, because somebody's got to, you know, you don't see it on mass media.
Yeah, they've got to. That's their job.
Yeah, but somebody's got to say it's going to be okay, you know? So you're going to be okay.
True. Be the space. Be the example. Be the model. Show people that it is possible. But they've got to decide this. The world is going through their own shadow work right now. Everyone is digging in deep to all these wounds. And those of us that see it, and those of us that can feel it, and those of us that get it, that doesn't make it our job to get them to get it.
Right.
We've got to stand strong and be the space for them to get it. We got to be the example that it's possible. Mm-hmm. We model for them. That does not mean that we do it for them, because they're not going to get it if we do it for them.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, Tim. Yeah. Sorry.
Morrighan, do you have gifted people in your family, and do you think that being an empath or a psychic can be inherited by your parents or grandparents?
Yeah, there's lots of cases where it's the heritage, the ancestry line is like that. My family was interesting. I think we all, best I can remember, we all had something. My mom used to have prophetic dreams. She would have the same dream 3 days in a row, and then it would come true. And then I think my brothers saw things, but we were all kind of ignorant around it, and we didn't understand it, so we all shut it down. And as we've gotten older, my mom's passed now, but my brothers, I've got 3 brothers, they have it too. I think I'm the only one that actually is embracing it and doing something with it. I think they're okay with having it shut down.
Wow. That's kind of, I don't know, to me it seems like that they're hurting themselves by shutting the gifts down.
Oh yeah. It's a lackluster life, because you're denying something of you that is natural, and when you're going against the nature of it, it can hurt. I remember, oh my gosh, early 40s or something, I tried to shut mine down too, because I was mad and hurt and brokenhearted, and I tried to shut it down, and it hurt so badly. I'm like, oh wait, never mind, I don't want to do that. So sorry. I just, yeah, it does hurt. It's not natural.
Yeah, I have a little niece who I feel is really gifted, and she can see and hear things that most people can't. And now it's being overshadowed by her mom taking her to church every Sunday and believing that she's a Christian, which is fine. But I think she's hurting herself by not letting those gifts out and not recognizing those gifts as part of her DNA.
Right.
Part of her wiring, I think she's selling herself short, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, maybe she'll come back around, I think everybody's got to have the experience, because I feel like the big thing about being a human is having the experience of contrast. We have what we have, we like what we like, we don't like what we don't like, and it allows us to zero in on who we really are. And sometimes our pendulum swings way over, so we might be the most gifted psychics in the world, but we've got a few years of having it be vilified, within a specific church, and they want to shut it down and push it down. But I feel like our pendulum will swing again, and it's like we've got to go to one side and have it, and then we go to the other side to have it, and then we find our happy medium in the middle. And I see humans doing that a lot, where we have one extreme and then the other, but then we figure it out somewhere down the road.
So you think at some point you'll recognize it again and come back to it?
It's possible. It just depends, right? Because if she's really harmed with how it depends on the church, it depends on the family, it depends on the psychic.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see a lot of people doing damage where they harm them and there's trauma around it, so they may not go back to it. They may find other outlets for their intuition where it's not so threatening to their family.
Mm-hmm.
But that pendulum swing might swing way over in the next lifetime, you know, in the bigger picture.
Do you think that this lifetime teaches us something for the lifetime to come? Or
Yeah, I feel like the big picture, so where we have, you know, our singular lifetime, we're born and then we live and we grow and learn and stretch and fall down and pick ourselves up. And, you know, I feel like the goal is really just to, I don't like the word lessons. I don't think we're here to learn lessons because that feels very judgy to me.
Right.
But I feel like we're here to expand and know self. So if you take all the lifetimes and you put it on one big timeline, our soul really is just trying to figure itself out. And the way it does that is by giving it contrasting experiences of what it likes and what it doesn't like. And then that way, what we learn in this lifetime, we take into the next lifetime with a new set of goals, with a new set of, hey, I want to try this now, and oh, I wonder what that will be like. And it's not the judgy, I need to learn my lessons before I die kind of scenario in my mind. I feel like it's really one big roller coaster ride, and we learn ourselves along the way.
Mm-hmm. What about old souls, young souls and old souls? Because I've come across people who were extremely intelligent and say they had a gift of singing or a gift of, you know, whatever, and they just seem to be smarter than a lot of people. Do you think that's part of them being an old soul, possibly?
My take on the old soul, new soul is in relation to where we are. So we're on planet Earth. The old souls, I feel like, are the souls that have been on the planet a lot, and they know the game, and they've learned a lot, and they, you know, they've anchored in that ancient knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
What we would call new souls, I feel like, aren't human entirely. They've had the same amount of lifetimes, but they've lived in other places. And so when they come to this planet, they feel new because they're new, but not in the new like they were just born new. This might be their first visit or second visit to the planet. And so they might have a younger feel to them because it's a brand new place. Because I don't think that old and new in retrospect to like their age, like this soul has lived thousands of lifetimes and this soul has only lived one. I don't feel like I believe that. I don't have any proof, obviously, but I feel like we all have been created at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Chip?
Oh, where to even begin? All right, so I'll ask you this, considering there are no dumb questions.
Always.
It's just, you know, look, I talk to a lot of people. Me, personally, I had about 7 years where I was very sensitive to the dead. Okay.
Yeah.
And I would ask them some very philosophical questions and get very interesting answers. You know, now it's my personal belief after doing that yes, we have a series of lifetimes, some here, some not here, some as animals, some as amoeba, you know, some as men, some as women. But we also have some mediums here that think that there are no past lives. It's just your lineage goes in your DNA is what you're sensitive to. But I think you're more the former than the latter. You're more like me. And I guess my question is, because I do tarot readings, it's my personal opinion that forecasting or future telling is a disservice because it potentially cheats you out of life lessons.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on forecasting? Do you disagree with me or agree with me?
I completely agree with you. I don't do fortune telling. I think that to say, it kind of goes into a conversation of, if I tell you your future, it means it's already written and you have no choice. You're going to head that way no matter what.
Takes the free will away. Okay.
It takes free will away. So what I work with the person like who they are right now, and if they go, well, where am I headed? Like in a specific, like, should I take this job or this job? I can tell you how it's going to turn out on either end, but I can't tell you which one you're going to do because the free will rules all. Yeah, right. I'm the same way. I want to have that power. Yeah, I want that power in my experience. Now, I can see if let's say you come to me for a reading and you're telling me what's going on. If you change nothing and you keep going, I can see where you're headed. I can see where that road's taking you, and I can pretty much see what's going to happen. But that's the beauty of getting guidance and readings is if you change nothing, this is what's going to happen. But guess what? You're here right now. Let's talk about some things that can put you on another road. Right. Because you have the ability to change it before that happens. And I think I feel like that's much more powerful than saying, oh, you're screwed. You have no, you have no choice.
No, I absolutely agree. It's not about the job or the relationship. It's why. Yes. Why the job, why the relationship, and what strengths are around you to take you through whatever is coming.
Exactly. And do you want to go that way?
And leave the free will alone because, the free will's a kind of a red line. For readings. Well, good, man. I'll have to ask you for a reading sometime. Hey, if I want to ask you for a reading, how can I do that?
You're hilarious. I'm sorry. I'm just really enjoying you guys. I have to tell you before I do that I never know what I'm walking in on radio shows, like especially when they're primarily like paranormal and the metaphysical. You guys are new, so
thank you.
I just want to get that out.
It's mutual.
Thank you. Yeah, so the best place to find me would be on my website, which is morriganlynne.com, and I've got all of my classes and services on there, and the book. There's a little bit of information about that, and it's just the central place where you can just get to know me a little bit better and see if we're a fit, because I want to show up for the people that are, feeling like they want to show up. So that's got to be mutual. So that's where you can read more about me.
Awesome. Timmy?
I think it's time for a break.
Oh, not a 45-minute one, though, right?
No, just a 5-minute one.
It's an inside joke. All right, break time. Woohoo!
And on that, you are listening to The Supernatural Realm on the LNM Radio Network. We'll be right back right after this.
Do you have a troll? Or maybe a group of acting like moles trying to dig up dirt and make you just look stupid? Well, if so, introducing Troll Spray, industrial sprays designed to remove unwanted trolls from message boards, threads, blogs, YouTube videos, and much, much more. So if you need a can of Troll Spray, please call 1-800-1234. That's 1-800-1234 before midnight tonight, and we'll double your order. That's 1-800-1234. All major credit cards are accepted. Call 1-800-1234 before midnight tonight. If you don't, it may all be gone.
The LNM Radio Network is growing like wildfire. Here is your chance to get your message to the masses. We are the #1 radio network in the land with 30 quality shows and counting. We are the best bet on the internet and the AM/FM dial, being carried by several stations and being heard in more than 100 countries. And who else can say they have Midnight in the Desert with Heather Wade? Exactly. So for more information on advertising with LNM Radio, just contact Michael Vera at mv@latenightinthe-midlands.com or Ira Robinson at feedback@openeyesnetwork.com. Again, mv@latenightinthe-midlands.com or feedback@openeyesnetwork.com.
tomorrow as you did today, you're going to get the same tomorrow as you got today. Changing the world starts with you, and changing you starts with changing the way you think. Late Night in the Midlands can help. Listen to all of our shows at latenightinthemidlands.com, because things really do need to change.
You can listen to the LNM Radio Network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the Paranormal Radio app. Available from lnmradionetwork.com or talkstreamlive.com on both Android and Apple. Our call to listen line is open 24/7. Dial 701-719-9704 so you can listen on the go.
The L&M Radio Network and Late Night in the Midlands depends on you, the listener. Without you, there would be no us. So help us continue to bring you the best guests with the best information, and subscribe today. Information on becoming an L&M subscriber can be found at the top of latenightinthemidlands.com. Just click the About Subscriptions tab and become part of the family while helping the truth stay alive. And while you're at it, maybe subscriptions aren't for you. A one-time donation helps as well. Click that donate button on the right side of latenightinthemidlands.com and help us help you.
To hide the truth once you know it makes you think that you are better than everyone else. It makes you into the type of person who says, "Ooh, I have a secret," but you're not ready to hear it yet. However, for $39.95, I'll let you in on the secret. You'll lead the people to the promised land for the cheap price of 3 easy payments of 1/3 of their soul apiece.
Radio, then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
And welcome back to the Supernatural Realm on the LNM Radio Network. Chip, are you still there, bud?
I sure am, my friend.
Is our guest still here, Morrighan?
I am.
Awesome.
See, we are revived from our break.
Yes. If our listeners would have a question for our guest, the number is 724-602-2826. We are at the beginning of our second hour, so if you have a question, feel free to call in. Chip, you have another question or comment for Morrighan?
Yeah, you really want me to. Yeah, actually I do, and our honored guest today is Morrighan Lynne. Phenomenal. Really a shadow warrior. I mean, she's out to kind of, make us aware that the best path to true happiness is to face some of the dark things within us. Face them. So I've got a couple of questions throughout the remainder of this hour.
Okay.
2 examples that I would really appreciate your advice on, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
The first one, and then we'll go back to Timmy.
Okay.
I have 2 friends. Actually, one's a former guest of mine and one's a future guest of mine. Both at this time period, at this very time period, and at the same time. It's kind of an odd coincidence. I love odd coincidences, but they have changed their focus on their path forward to focus on either friends, dear friends, or loved ones who are going through cancer. And my concern is, naturally, I'm concerned for the people that are having cancer, you know. But I'm more concerned, oddly, I love irony, I guess, with the people that change their paths in order to really focus on these sick friends or lovers or loved ones of theirs. And I'm concerned about their boundaries, and you're the shadow warrior. So I ask your advice for them so I could pass it on and claim it as my own. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. I would credit you.
So let me see if I hear what you're saying is, are they both empathic and you're afraid that they're going to get sick? Is that what?
I'm not afraid that they're going to get sick. I'm afraid that they're going to put so much love,
their emotions,
and energy, and focus on them that they will ultimately neglect their own paths forward.
So the foundation, the bottom line, and I hope that this is received, because it can sound cold and callous, but is never meant to be that way.
Well, but you're a warrior, so that's why we ask you.
Right.
Gotcha. Well, when you boil it down and you really distill it down to its finite nutritional value, we are all here to be the space of connection, love, acceptance. But no one is responsible for anyone else's experience. Now, that gets really difficult when we love people, when they're family members or good friends or spouses or children. We get that line very blurred, and we start taking on the responsibility for their well-being and their survival.
That's my concern.
Working with the angelic realm for so many years, of course I haven't mastered this, but I would like to think that I have a pretty clear line on what's my job and what's not my job. And when you're nurturing people that are not well, the human side of us judges that something is wrong and I need to fix this so that they're better. And then all of our energy and all of our will and all of everything that we are starts going into that person's field, into their experience, and we try to change the experience because we are judging that something is wrong. That is the ego side of us. It's not a bad thing. We just have to catch it. We have to get some appropriateness around it. Our job is to honor the person's chosen experience. And now, before you argue, everything is everyone's choice. We are having the experience that we are choosing. Yes, we may not realize that on a human level, but on a soul level, that is exactly the experience we're having. Who are we to jump into their experience and deem it wrong and try to change it? That's being an appropriate healer. How can that person be loved and nurtured? How can we, my question is always, how can I support you? How can I be the space for you? What can I give you that will honor your journey? And that's hard because when our hearts are connected to people and our egos are fired up and we see things like we see these tragedies in the world and we see everything falling down and we hurt because we're empathic, or we just love. You don't even have to be empathic to have compassion. We want to change what's happening because we deem it as wrong. But is it? And that's the hard part for humans to get, is that we're inserting ourselves into other people's experiences, and maybe we shouldn't. So the line gets to be, how can I support them in the experience that they're having, because it's not mine to change. And that's a hard conversation to have. I know, I get it.
Well, you're the warrior, so that's why we asked, and
well,
it's good advice. You know, it's a tough spot as an empathic person to see the road they are taking And the boundaries get blurred very easily, and that's my concern for them.
So essentially, it's part of that person's own path to have that sickness.
Well, yeah, because oh gosh, it's such a hard conversation to have. I get a lot of hate mail when I talk like this, but the truth is, yes, because of course the human is not choosing this experience.
Right.
We wouldn't want to be in pain. We want to be happy and healthy and in alignment and all of this. The soul, we don't know what the soul said.
Right.
The soul has written contracts before it was even born.
True.
And we can't know what that soul said it wanted to experience. Now, of course, you ask any human going through anything, of course it's not what we want. That's ego.
Mm-hmm.
But the soul, to know itself on the grandest scale of all the lifetimes, there's a possibility that they have chosen an illness to have in this lifetime. It's very difficult to talk to humans, though, that way, because of course we wouldn't want this. Of course we don't want anyone to suffer or suffer ourselves, but you can't know what the soul chose.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I understand it, too. The soul makes a decision before it's even born into a human being what their path is, and that includes death.
Includes the cancer.
Right, and includes the cancer.
The suffering. I had somebody, and I'll just say this very briefly, who had a pretty severe case, but at the same time, they were kind of alone, They had nursed others who had cancer and were not appreciated for it. All their past came up, they're bullied in youth and felt that feeling of worthlessness or helplessness. And all of a sudden, in their worst spot in this cancer of theirs, came in a pouring of people they didn't even realize they had positively affected, that sent love in just this mass energy, through mass media, through gifts, and they realized their worth, and they found their inner superhero and conquered it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I'm just saying that. So, a communal support is a beautiful thing. It's actually dates back before. We're talking about prehistoric times. These tribal things. Somebody gets sick, the entire tribe, gives love and support, and we don't do that anymore, but we can. So if you see somebody who's suffering, send love somehow, just so they know that they're appreciated, and that might help.
So my guides are asking me to add a little bit so that people can understand maybe if we could take the cancer part a little further.
Okay.
Sure.
They're wanting me to add that because free will rules all, let's take a hypothetical. Let's say a soul that has had past lives experienced with a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse, or maybe they were the abuser, and they have all of this energy stored up in them. And let's say they chose a lifetime where they'll be given the opportunities to work through those traumas and work that energy out of their DNA, work it out of their system, and not get sick.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say when they're born, they choose to not take those opportunities, and they decide to let that anger fester within them, and the guilt and the shame, and they choose not to process through their traumas. The body cannot handle those storage units. It cannot handle the rage and shame and guilt. And what happens in the body is the vibration starts to decrease, and that's where we get disease and ailments and illnesses, because the body cannot handle it. So I want to just clarify, because they corrected me, it may not be that the soul chose to have cancer. It could be that the soul has chosen to want to work out the trauma that can cause cancer, but they chose not to work on the traumas.
Yeah,
that's where free will rules.
I like your guides, Morrighan Lynne.
Cool.
I like your guides. Yeah, actually,
they're pretty bad. Yeah, they're awesome.
Mine and lots of readings that I've had have told me that I come from lifetimes being tortured for my beliefs, called a heretic or a witch, because I was a scientist in one or had more Gnostic beliefs in another, but always toward the mystic. And here in this lifetime, we're coming to a point where we can actually express spiritual things like that without getting tortured. So that's a shout out to your guides. I'm just saying.
They appreciate it.
Tammy?
Yeah, it's hard not to get, emotionally involved with a loved one who has cancer. Myself, I have a cousin currently that has, cancer and it's spreading. And this past weekend, his heart was in defib, and he found out he was in a hospital on Saturday. And apparently he's out now. I don't know whether he's home or somewhere else, but it can be emotionally hard. It's sometimes because it's like you're going through that experience with him, and there's nothing you can do for that person.
Right.
So it's.
I know. I'm so sorry. It's the human experience, and we want. All of us, we want the full meal deal. We want all of it. We want to eat as much as we can of it. And sometimes it catches up with us if we're not careful.
Right. Chip?
Okay. Second thing that I wanted to ask your advice on. Because there is somebody in my current path who has a upbringing that had a lot of abuse. A parent who was a very mean drunk and consistently said, you're not going to make it, you're a failure, you're worthless, over and over and over again. And they had took themselves and rose above it because nobody else was going to do it for them. And that's a thing that's kind of a part of this question is ultimately when we change, when we decide to rise above these things, it's great to have help from other people, but it's ultimately up to us. So that's part one. But I wanted to ask, because the voices are coming back again, life shifts, we go through ups and downs. And some of the downs, or you go 2 steps forward and 1 step back. You had some extreme things happen. I think the energy of the last maybe 3 years was kind of pushed everybody out of a comfortable situation into an uncomfortable one. And we're coming to a place now where we almost have a choice where we can say we're going to purposefully rise above these challenges that are coming, or we're just going to accept them and be sheep and be, ruled and be worthless. But my question really is, how can they get those voices out of their head? Again, what would they have to do, especially if they're at a place where they're starting to lose their will?
Right. Well, one thing to consider is whenever you're in situations that's years-long trauma, it's not going to be a quick fix. It's not going to take forever, but I think we have this thinking that we can just get over it, and it's like I call it, you have to suck the poison out. So it takes a little time to get it out of the bloodstream. So take your time with it. But part of it is mastering the self-awareness and understanding which voice you're listening to, because we all have an inner critic. And it does depend on who was critical in our lives and the degree of criticism, like if they are like just saboteur kind of victim-y energy all the way up to the abusive kind of energy. It just depends on that voice. So part of the mastery is being able to listen to which voice is talking to you, but then learn new skills to not believe the critic voice And that's part of the shadow work that I do with people. Unraveling stories is a big deal. You know, when we have traumatic experiences, especially as children, we have the experience and the facts are the facts. This happened, but we create a lot of story around why that happened. And as children, we will beat ourselves up over it, and we start believing that critical voice. And so as adults, you know, and then we're just trying to survive. So we do whatever it takes to survive. In shadow work, I call those wounds. You have wounds that are buried deep inside of you because we have to push them down to get through. And that's just the way it is. Nobody is immune. Everyone has wounds to some degree. The shadow work is about going in and acknowledging those wounds and hearing their story, because in acknowledgement, the wound actually feels validated and it starts to feel nurtured, and the healing process begins. You can lessen that voice, but you can't do it by bypassing it and just keeping yourself busy and just trying to be positive.
Pretending it doesn't exist.
You've got to go in. Exactly. That's bypassing it. That's called spiritual bypassing. You're just trying to get through it. But there's a way to go in and acknowledge the wound. It's not going to kill you, and that's what we think. We think if we go in there, it's going to just rip us open. But it isn't. And it's actually, you know, you keep calling me the warrior, but it's a gentle process. It's still very warrior-esque in the sense that you've got to maintain your focus. You've got to be committed to it, yes, and you've got to face those icky parts. But it's a loving, gentle process, as delicate as you can imagine. That begins the process of healing, and we can get past them, but it takes some bravery to be willing to face them.
Yeah, and I just want to say that again out loud. You know, it is a general process, facing your fears. Yeah. Think of the, you know, the loudest fight or flight response that you've ever had, when you're put in a situation where you just have to face something, and you have your senses about you, and you know what to do, and you just do it. And after it's over, you don't really give yourself any credit for that, but that's kind of what it's like, because you go, wow, I was pretty good when I did that. You know, I kicked ass. I was good.
Right.
And that's
exactly.
So it's a warrior thing, but again, we have to say it out loud. It's a gentle process. And you do wonderful things for people. And if somebody needs your shadow warriorness, how can they find it?
I'm so sorry. You're so adorable. MorrighanLynne.com is my website, and I've got two options when I do coaching. For me, that's what it is. It's the shadow work. Mm-hmm. There's a spiritual design where if you want to embrace your spiritual gifts, if you want to understand them and kind of hone in on your particular magic, then that is where we go into the spiritual coaching. If you want more life-type skills like boundaries and using your authentic voice and standing up to bullies in your life, then that's more of the everyday life coaching. So, you know, we tailor make it to whatever you need it to be.
I got a question.
Okay.
What do you do to ground yourself, or what do you do, how do you deal with people in the public place? Do you ground yourself? Do you have
center yourself?
Yeah. Do you have religious medals that you carry for protection? What type of methods do you use?
I do a lot of, I have kind of a systems check is what I call it. I ground and I center every day, and I run a scan through my body. I call it a baseline read. I want to see how I'm doing. So I do that every morning. I just want to see how I'm doing. Like, did I rest? Is my energy up? Is it down? Do I need to nurture myself today? It's kind of just a baseline. I want to get a baseline read on myself. Then when I go out in public, I just stay in my awareness. I've trained myself to be very aware of about 5 feet outside of myself, and I can feel energy coming towards me, and I try to pick it up as soon as I can before it actually reaches my body. And then that way I'm able to preemptively, like, I can deal with it before it actually hits me. So if people are throwing daggers or jealousy or their love and it's accepting, I have a heads up and I can catch it before it actually lands on me. But that's just practice. It's practicing self-awareness. I don't actually do protection. I don't, this is going to get controversial, but I don't agree with protection. And here's why. If you're running a vibration within you and a belief that says you need protection, your baseline vibration is fear-based.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
So if you're running around...
That's not controversial. It's a good point.
Well, it can shatter some illusions for people, and I understand that, but that's why I want to explain it, because if you're running around thinking that the world is out to get you, something's going to get you because of your lower frequency.
It's almost a law of attraction thing, and I don't like saying law of attraction because it's really done wrong here in the West, but in a universal law sense. If you think about fear, and if that inner voice, that critical voice is saying, oh boy, you're going to run into evil and you're sinning and you're doing demonic things, and I just know I'm going to lose this job or this home, or that kind of voice. People, I think the core base of human behavior is, even on an instinctive level, at the very core level, we have to be right. We'd rather be right than out of pain or out of fear or out of anything. It's all about being right. And if your subconscious is working to say, well, okay, we'll make you right in everything, and you have this voice that says, oh, I'm going to fail this, or I'm going to, or scary things are going to come to me, then you attract that, and the protection is kind of illusion of that. And it's the base reality that you have to face in order to heal, and that's what Morrighan Lynne does. That's what she's here for. So it's not controversial, it's real.
Good. Right. I'm glad, yeah.
And I'm a protection guy, I'm a big protection guy, but I absolutely agree with you.
Well, there's a need to be proactive. I don't think being proactive is necessarily running a fear-based program. Because it would be stupid to go, oh, I'm not going to do anything. Well, you're going to get clobbered because you're being a passive human being. Yeah. I believe in being proactive. And so ground, center, run energy in your chakras, get into your self-awareness, pay attention to your surroundings, and then have boundaries. Because here's the difference. When you say something out in the world is dangerous and it's going to get me, you start building up walls. And walls disconnect you from source. But if you're in the world and you're saying, I love myself enough not to let you harm me, I am able to stay open, but I'm also having my own back. In other words, if someone hurts me, I'm going to act on my behalf. I'm not just going to take it. So that allows me my openness, where I don't have to be cowering in the corner hoping nobody throws any rocks at me. It allows me to have my energy expanded and open, and I'm not afraid. I'm in the vibration of love because I love myself enough to walk away from harm.
And you're attracting the zone.
Right.
Yeah, that flow.
Right.
That's awesome.
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
Very cool, very cool. I noticed, like, in the past, like when I was a teenager, I was like going through some things emotionally because of my upbringing and things like that, and I had a habit of attracting negative people in my circle.
Yeah.
And until I realized who I am and I've grown, it's kind of stopped that now. Is that common, you think? You attract who
interesting, and I agree with you, Chip, about the law of attraction. I think that's this buzzword that I just want to vomit over. But there are some truths to it that I really enjoy, is that you are what you attract. Mm-hmm. And so, like the birds of a feather. So if you want to know what kind of person you are, look at the top 10 people in your circle. Mm. And if you've got victim mentality, or you've got bully mentality, or you've got people that want to blame the world or be martyrs or whatever, right? Are you being that? And this is where the beauty of shadow work comes into play. It's not to beat yourself up over when you realize this. It's to get that they are a mirror for you. For you to know who you are, you have to be able to see them, because you are the same. And if you don't like it, now you have an opportunity to change it. So that is incredibly common, but people tend to not want to take responsibility for that because they want to be able to blame something else. It's not my fault.
They're the victim.
But in shadow work, you have to be accountable. You have to take responsibility for yourself, or you're going to get clobbered.
Well, could I? What do you think about this perspective? You're talking about mirrors. I always say life is like a picture, and most of us look at that picture and say, "What's wrong with this picture?" You know, all my hair. I don't.
Yeah.
That was a bad hair day. You know, oh, I got a mole. You know, I gotta take care of that. I don't like my teeth. I didn't like my smile. My body looks out of shape. You know, but you can look at that picture and see what's good about it. You know, and change that perspective, and not in the kind of because it's still real, but it amends your focus a bit, and you can be forgiving of the bad hair to say, well, you know, there's some sexy in there, man. You know? And I just wanted to say out loud that I feel great now because I looked at my top 10 friends, and they're some of the coolest people on earth. So, you know, I feel much better. Thank you.
Well, yeah, they wouldn't be able – see, that's the thing about frequency is you cannot be in a circle of friends that you don't match. Right. Because they'll either kick you out or you will find fault in them. Like if they're great people and you're not a great person, and this isn't judgment, this is just like, let's just say one person is kind of wanting to be a victim and a martyr, but their circle of friends are all positive and they're making, you know, changes in the world and they want to be proactive. That victim person's not going to like those people because it's too vast of a frequency. So they'll find fault in those friends and they'll say, oh, I hate that guy, or I can't stand them. But they don't want to take responsibility for their own victimhood. And so they'll go find other victims that will validate that, yes, it is those people. They're really crappy people. So they, you know, that's where the birds of a feather flock together. We want to go find our people that are going to validate who we are. It just depends on if you're wanting excuses or you're wanting celebration.
Right. I have some friends that are that I seem to attract. I'm pretty meek, you know. I have a dove as my totem animal. You know, I kind of go with the flow and you know, try to create peace, and because of that, I have friends that, you know, kind of are powerful, you know, and they embrace what I do, and they take me in, but they're bridge burners, ultimately. Right. And they say, okay, well, I don't like this person right now, so you can't like this person right now. And I'm like, well, they didn't do anything to me. Yeah, but they did something to me. I would do the same for you.
I'm not like that.
No, I love you, man. You're in my top 10. You're one of the, you know. So,
is this your way of trying to tell him?
Oh, I love Tim, man. Tim and I, oh, God, he's just the most beautiful man in the world, you know. And it alights me to be around him, you know. The people in my top 10 are people that bring light, you know. And they kind of walk in light, if I can say it that way. But then there's always somebody who gets really social and gets really involved in me, and we have nice communications, and then they say, oh, well, so-and-so, you know, betrayed me, so I want you to block them.
We're not having
I want you to unfriend them. I want you to, you know, and I'm like, what that's not what I do, you know. And they're like, well, how can you be a good friend to me? You know, that's what I do for you. And I wouldn't ask you to do that for me, you know.
Right.
Because I don't.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the difference. You want to figure out those people because they're not in the relationship for you. They're in the relationship to get something from you. And it's very important to pick those people apart. Yeah. You need to figure out who those people are.
And sometimes we learn too late.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes. but there's always nutrition to take away. Even if you get blindsided and they freaking rip your heart out and it totally betrays you, there's always something to walk away with that you know more now. And yes, it sucks, and yeah, you didn't see it. Man, I should have caught that faster. You can always walk away with nutrition if you're willing to look at it. That's the difference.
Yeah. Well, I got my top 10 like Timmy, that I come out with kind of. And in these cases now, I embrace the good memories I had with them and move on, because I live in pain. Pain has a different memory, than something like love does,
Right.
You kind of only remember the better things. And so that's what I choose to do, At least he could say that once upon me he was a friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's just like my father, Chip. I made my peace with it.
Yeah. And you got to say your goodbye.
Yeah.
Which is an important thing because, look, and again we go back to I don't know if you have some mediumship in you, Morrighan?
I do.
Okay. Well, I had like 7 years with it, and I kind of let it go because it started affecting me physically. Again, just like you said, But I mean, I would cross over some troubled spirits, bring them to the light, worked with them, so, like suicides and things of that nature. But there's that chasm that I'd like to bring up. Medium to medium, and Tim has some mediumship in him too. He's better than he believes he is, But so am I, I'm the guy probably got 100 outside the window going, Chip,
Yeah.
I'm next.
But the biggest thing throughout the path of that for me, especially being empathic, was the people who didn't get that goodbye. There's that void in the ether, and it affects both the living and the spirit of that didn't get the goodbye. So I wanted to ask you about that, I guess. To encourage anybody who feels that way to maybe look for affirmations. I think that if they were aware of affirmations, they would be aware that the person they didn't get the goodbye with is there from time to time, and there are signs. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree. There's, when we get into the conversation of mediumship, there are so many variables because you're no longer working with a human and a spirit guide that is divine. You are now working with a human and a human. And they all have completes, their own thoughts, their own prejudices, their own emotions. So
ego.
It is a big, big conversation. But yes, when people pass over, or when they leave the body, the living can still have experiences that they're around. I'm kind of struggling. I'm touching it all to see what I want to say. I feel like there's too much focus put on mediumship for us to not let the family members or loved ones cross over. Humans have a tendency to grab on and not want to lose them, and I totally understand. I understand that.
That's an excellent point, by the way. That's an excellent point.
Yeah. Well, that's what funerals are, I know it's to honor the loved one and everything, but if we as the living don't let go and allow the soul to cross over and to go through their healing process, it's detrimental to their soul journey.
True.
I see a lot of these TV shows, they freaking just
the TV shows. Well, that's but that's like gang reading, running up to some stranger and say, "Hey, I see your mother," and they're like, "What?"
But the problem with the TV shows is it's our society's only voice. This is what people believe. This is how it works, and that's why
Timmy and I are here.
Right.
To fix
so
that.
I don't actually say I can talk to anybody, anytime, anywhere. I don't agree with that.
It doesn't work that
horrible.
way. Yeah.
No.
It's
I
their
ask
time, not yours. Their schedule.
Right.
You get what
I
you
ask
get
my guides if they're available. If they're not available, I tell the person, no, they're busy, they're healing, they've got to have their process, because if you pull them out of that healing process, it yanks them out of something that is helping them, and it'll hurt them.
Yeah.
So,
on that point, in a brief question, because look, we're in paranormal,
right?
And I mean that was our base, really. That's where Timmy and I really started.
Right.
But we saw beyond. I mean, people are looking at three-dimensional space to answer their questions, and the real answers are in the universal laws. And nobody really pays attention to interdimensional or universal laws in order to solve these things. Even quantum physics is starting to get there. There's a couple of guys that are actually say that there is consciousness as an energy form, and that's a very, very rare thing.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask specifically because, Timmy and I being in paranormal, there are certain locations, and I always bring this one up because I guess it bothers me the most. Two of them, Salem, Mass, and the Lizzie Borden house.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're talking about yanking people out of their in spirit, their path forward. They have to process this lifetime and the good and the bad and all these other things, and find the what they brought to the world ultimately. What they contributed as they were here. And in the case of Lizzie Borden, where you got people going in, trying to make contact with her and thinking that she took an axe and gave her father 40 whacks. And when she died, she actually believed she was going to get found not guilty in an appeal, And we don't really know for sure. And even if she did, she was in a horrid, abusive situation, and it's none of our business. But the living people are keeping her history alive. And I think that part of her has to be there as this novelty, and that can't be anything good. Would you agree with that assessment, or not?
Well, here's what I'm getting intuitively, because I've never been to the Lizzie Borden house.
Neither have I won't go.
Yeah.
Or Salem.
But I have been to places like Salem and other places that are supposed to be like multiple hauntings, yada yada. So here's what I'm hearing intuitively is that it's more than likely her soul isn't there anymore. But who people are communicating with are probably negative energies, demonic energies that are pretending to be her so that people can get duped, because people are easy food if they're not paying attention to what's going on. And that's where I go into the paranormal, where I'm like, you've got to be smart when you're dealing with, you cannot just trust that you're getting what you're getting. And so the demonic side and the entity side, the darker realms, they know humanity very well, and they can mimic humans up to about 95%. So there might be a demon pretending to be Lizzie Borden just so you can get your EVPs and your little mechanical lights light up.
And the fear-based modes you're attracting.
Yep.
Right. And what happens is when everybody starts getting interaction, it gets very exciting, and people start opening up, which makes it easy for entities to attach onto you.
Yep.
Yeah, they feed it more. And
Especially
they can go home with you, and yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be smart. Like I don't like how education is around the paranormal realm.
Oh,
there are things
the media is, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, but
that's okay.
No, you were going to say.
Well, there are things that go bump in the night. There are things that will harm you if you allow them, and there's no education around that. And you have sensationalists like, Ghost Adventures that are buying demon houses, and they're trying to get possessed. And I'm like, you are idiots.
Yep.
And you're teaching people that this is okay. And this is why people are getting harmed.
Or taunting things, going in and taunting.
Yes. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Timmy?
You got to be smart.
I had my mom has a neighbor, and the former owner's family believes that the loved one is still there. And the story is that he possibly committed suicide or he was murdered or whatever. And the team that went in there, one of the team members assumed that the spirit or the male that was in the home ultimately committed suicide. And he was calling them out on it. He was calling them names. And the homeowner reached out to me and told me that that wasn't appropriate. And if he was the spirit that he was calling these names and saying you're a coward, he would have, slapped him upside the head for saying that to him.
That's disgusting.
And that's I didn't like it. I didn't agree with it. And I told the homeowner, I said, why didn't you have them removed or tell them to leave your home?
Yeah.
But he thought that was part of, that was normal for a team to go in and do things like that to try to get a response.
Right,
So.
because a lot of them believe that's what they have to do. They have to go in and incite a reaction to prove that they're there. And it's disgusting in my book. I feel like there needs to be so much education around like etiquette, like proper etiquette. If you treat them nicely and have boundaries, of course, but if you're polite and you treat them nicely, then they'll treat you nicely.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason to go in and pick a fight because then you're going to get your ass handed to you.
Yep. Chip?
Yeah, okay. I wanted to ask something that I think you'll slap me down on, and I like getting slapped down on radio. It's part of the thrill.
My goodness.
I'm like,
Get
it's
that
about to take a turn.
Okay. I want to go back to the example of Lizzie Borden. The Salem thing is weird. I can't even go near there, so I think that there must be. It's a past life thing.
Probably.
And because again, past lives where I've been accused of being a witch and a heretic and tortured and killed and all these other things. So Salem is that thing that I just can't go near. But I want to go back to Lizzie Borden for a moment because I have a theory that I know you'll disagree with.
Maybe you have a connection to
the
that.
whole point. I want to get slapped down today.
Okay, bring it.
Okay, I'm going to use an example you used. We're basically spirits in a human existence.
Right.
So part of our journey forward is addressing the human stuff if you're too much into your spirit. But there are some times I think where your higher self will leave and set up things for a future path for you, so you feel kind of empty, and then it comes back and you feel whole again. But back to the Lizzie Borden thing, I think even in spirit there's an ethereal and an astral and a spiritual thing still in that consciousness, and because the collective consciousness energy of the living regurgitate this history over and over again for novelty in this place, that I think that a fraction of her soul has to be there to address it. And I'm waiting for you to vehemently disagree with me on that.
And I got a quick question too after you're done.
Yeah, so let me see if I'm hearing you. You're saying because there's so much energy of the living calling her back that there's got to be a piece of her that's there to answer. Obligated.
That's a I think that it's like we get fractured sometimes, as humans.
Yeah.
So I think even in spirit, maybe they get fractured. She could still be working on her path forward, but part of her has to address all of this collective consciousness energy that calls her back. And the history that continues to be in this ether here.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
I can see a possibility of what you're saying, because I do come into contact every now and then with fractured souls. And these are usually the psychopaths or the horribly like just mass murderers or anybody that like where they're out so far out of alignment with their true self that there's soul fractures. And there's other paths that talk about that. I can see a possibility, but part of me feels like that would still be free will. If she would feel like she had unfinished business, maybe she would want to make amends with that area or that grouping or that house or whatever. Maybe there's something in her that feels incomplete. That's what we would call the hauntings, where they keep visiting back, and maybe there's something in her that's incomplete, but I don't think that they're obligated, because that's a stronger word. That means they have no choice.
Yeah.
You know, like if the living are obligating her to complete something. I don't agree with that. I feel like it would be up to the soul if they felt like they wanted to finish things up, but it's up to her.
Yeah. And on that note, I think Timmy has a question.
Do you think it's our duty as investigators or our duty as empaths to cross over, mediums to cross over spirit?
Yeah. I think it's the kind thing to do. I don't know that everyone agrees, especially if you lean over into the paranormal and you want your evidence. I actually know of teams that open portals and they bind spirits to houses because they want it to be haunted, which is disgusting to me.
Right, they almost attract them, and then they have priests to do exorcisms and sage and all this other stuff.
No, they don't. No. Let me be clear. They don't attract them. They bind them. They imprison.
Oh, right. Okay.
They make the spirit.
Oh, because of that part. Yes, that's an excellent point.
They chain them and they stake the chain in the ground because the spirit can't go anywhere, and it's magic. You know, they bind them magically. And I've gone into places with my team where we have found this out, and we unbind them because I don't play like that. It's
good for you. What steps would you take to do that? I mean, no spoiler alerts here, but maybe a tease.
It depends on the magic. I have this thing about me where I'm able to kind of lock in on what ritual was used. Clairvoyantly, I can see how they did it, and I try to unbind and
you go, girl.
And
see, things are always bigger in Texas.
So, and so to answer your question, I think it's the kind thing to do, because there are a lot of, the way I look at it is, the longer that the human has been dead, without crossing over, because there are layers to the experience. So let's say a human died 50 years ago and they did not cross over. So what that means is they're still very connected to their ego. They're connected to who they were as a human and their memories and their emotions. And so they still feel alive.
Yeah, some don't know they're dead.
Right. As time passes, they start forgetting that they've died, and this is why I think that, because they start getting some sort of amnesia that they have forgotten, and I think the reasoning is, if no one talked to you, saw you, touched you, interacted with you, you would begin to question your existence.
Right.
And that would be unnerving.
That's an excellent point.
Right, and so what these spirits do when they start feeling like and wondering if they even exist is they start collecting into locations that they feel comfort in. Like maybe it's an old hospital if they were a doctor, or an old hotel if they were a chambermaid. They go to places that feel comforting because it validates that they existed.
They might even appear at the age where they were most comfortable.
Exactly. And so what happens is they take on the persona. That's why some hauntings, they don't interact. They just go about their day and they're doing their chores because that's what's comfortable to them. I've actually done investigations where I've tapped into a spirit and I saw his reality. And I had to be very careful. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like my third eye could tap into his third eye and I could see the way he saw life. But if I was not careful, I would have ruptured his reality. It would have popped his bubble.
So you did it without intruding. Yeah. Timmy,
Yes, I tried to do that without intruding, yeah.
In closing, since we're running out of time, and I think our conversation just gets getting warm and just getting heated up.
We're just getting started.
I don't know where 2 hours went.
I don't either. But
that's the supernatural realm with Tim Rockstone.
And Chip. In closing, Morrighan, how can people get a hold of you to get a copy of your book?
Yeah, the book is actually available on both Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. But if you want an autographed copy, go to my website and just contact me directly, MorrighanLynne.com, and I can get you an autographed copy and set it up and send it to you. Easy peasy.
Well, I'm going to have to get a reading from you, you know. Hey, maybe we can trade reading. I'll give you a tarot reading. You give me one of yours.
Fun. Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're about out of time, and Morrighan, again, thank you so much for coming on the show and being a part of.
Yeah, I had a blast.
Yeah, we loved having you. It's Morrighan for Morrighan, and Lynn is Lynne. And then you do that and put a .com after it, and boy, you're all set. All
right, guys, we got to go. We got to sign off. And again, Morrighan, thank you so much for coming on the show. Up next, the final countdown with Dave, their guest, David Clifford, electronic experts and alien UFO hunter. That's up next on the final countdown on the LNM Radio Network. Well, good night, everybody. I hope Morrighan. Hope you have a great week, and thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you too. I really enjoyed it, you guys.
Thank you so much. Chip?
Yeah, thank you all for listening. Don't forget to subscribe or donate to this network so we can eat. There's a subscribe button on latenightinthemidlands.com or lnmradionetwork.com. We loved having you. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Goodbye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Up next, the final countdown on the Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Good night, everybody. God bless, and have a great week.